early on, I had lunch with a guy named Bob Lupton who'd done a lot for revitalizing urban Atlanta. And Bob Lupton made this sideways comment that he said, the best Christians tend to make the worst neighbors. And I asked him to explain himself, and he said, well, rarely is their church in the community, so they're usually leaving the community to go to their church. And if they're really committed Christians, they're leaving their community all the time to go to their church.
We knew very few people who thought, oh, wow, this is a great place, this is where I want to live. It's the kind of place most people wanted to get away from.
When I was looking for a place for us to rent right after we sold our condo, I went to one of those pro-move places to help us find a place, and I told them the zip code, and they said, no ma'am, we will not help you find a place there.
Every day we see, kids, young girls prostituting. We have boys as young as 10 and 12 robbing and stealing cars. Over here is no different than serving in like a third world country. You see stuff, and when you're living in it, you become a part of it.
The 30318 zip code is one of the most diverse zip codes in the country, both in terms of socioeconomics and race. The heartbreaking thing about both Atlanta and our zip code is the natural lines and faults that really divide people too.
If you go over the railroad tracks, it's luxury. But you come back over and you're coming down Lee Hollowell, it's hopeless.
We really longed for and continue to long for those lines to be blurred. And if there's a place where that can happen, it's not with politics, and it's not with governments, and it's not even with goodwill, it's with the gospel.
We had begun praying for a particular kind of church with very little faith that this kind of church could actually exist.
It really struck us that Atlanta is a place that feels very fragmented. Most people have work over here and their neighborhood over here, and their kids go to school somewhere else, and church is maybe 30 minutes away from all of that. And we really longed for the kind of community where all of those different pieces were integrated together.
We went to one of the annual meetings of Christ Church where Walter laid out the vision for the Westside church plant, and we were like, oh my goodness, this is the church that we've been praying for.
So when we started Westside, it was in some ways opening our eyes to what was going on all around us.
Because we're in Atlanta and close to Buckhead, we have a lot of wealth, but we're also right on the map, very close to a lot of poverty. And I have seen our church almost like a bridge between the two communities. One Sunday I remember seeing a very well-known man in Atlanta with one of the men in our church that used to live on our street and in the crack house right down the street, and they were stacking chairs together and shaking hands and talking. I just thought, that's a glimpse of who we are as a church.
When I started coming to Atlanta Westside, I was on staff with a campus ministry and had a few friends and knew a few people that went to Atlanta Westside, and was just really drawn to the community at the church because I didn't have that at the church I was going to.
Coming to Westside, meeting Walter, and like him offering like a friendship and help with seminary was kind of like, oh wow, it's like here's people who are like willing to love me where I am, and it's hard to turn that down.
Part of what caused us to long for something more was just being in a big city and being from smaller places and not having opportunities to really see people from church outside of church. We would leave church and then maybe we said hi to someone that we thought, hey, we could get to know them, and then we wouldn't see them again for months.
In the several months before we planted Westside, we started a men's Bible study, and there were 8 to 10 guys that met on Friday morning at 6 o'clock in the morning, and we wanted a way to get to know each other better, so we started brewing beer in the backyard on Monday nights. The three of us who started the company, which is now Monday Night Brewing, we were all at the church together. We were all part of that initial group that planted the church, and so it was a great place where neighbors and coworkers and friends would come together, and we'd just be there together brewing beer.
Over the past 10 years, we've moved into a new home, we've had kids, we've had individual struggles. We've had struggles as a married couple. We've had struggles as a family. And regardless of whether it's the highest joy or the lowest low that we're going through, there's this feeling that we know that kind of somebody's got our back.
It's fascinating because like our life together, like Westside is a very big part of it, you know, because we were dating, engaged, and married while joining Westside. And so it's just kind of woven into Atlanta becoming home and feeling like home.
The Westside Atlanta Charter School came out of 90% Atlanta Westside members who wanted to start an educational opportunity that would not only be good for their children, but would provide a higher quality education for lower income kids of all races and backgrounds for the communities.
We got together and we're really looking and saying, what can we do to help bring educational justice, more educational options to the west side of Atlanta. And so that was where we came up with the charter school idea. And it's a public school, so it's not a Christian school, but there are a lot of people who have decided to send their kids there and to invest very specifically into the west side of Atlanta.
So there's a lot of presence from our body there in terms of the leadership team as well as the kids who go there.
We love to support the ministries of other churches. We love to work in partnership with other churches. We want to be really intentional about the programming that we have. So one of the coolest things we support is the Paw Kids Ministry in Grove Park.
Paw Kids comes from Paradise, Atlanta Westside, because it's two churches from people from different walks of life coming together to leave an imprint in one community. The history of this little house, it was a trap house, the largest trap house in the neighborhood. A trap house is a place where you can get any type of drugs from. Music was made out of this house. These kids are walking through our door and they're building their own relationship with Christ. So we run art, music, we have tutoring, mentoring, but the most important thing is we love and we spread the gospel. Kids have an opportunity to learn God for themselves.
I am divine, you are the branches. John 15:5.
J.
Jesus wept. John 11:35.
K.
Keep thy tongue from evil.
Paul Kids is Atlanta Westside.
This church, I mean, when they can see a need, like they are willing to dive in and help.
As a pastor, one of the most joyful things for me is being in relationship with the kids in the church, watching them grow up, watching them embrace the faith for themselves.
We love having children in the worship service. We love the idea of family worship.
The kids, I think they just feel like a part of the church, which is, it's different than what I had growing up.
I think as a parent, one of the things I love is Walter's always said, children, like you're allowed to make noise, and they do.
Do not be afraid. Do not discouraged.
I think that it's in our DNA, sort of embracing the children in a way that I think is really Christ-like.
I think the people at Atlanta Westside are pretty unique.
Usually everybody who I meet and spend time with, I am like surprised at how like honest they can be, how open they can be, and just how real they can be.
We've had a lot of folks from the church live with us throughout the years. It's kind of a sweet thing. We talk about living in community more broadly in neighborhoods, but to have, the church living in a community is really under the same roof has been a cool thing. And, as part of that, like previewing the kingdom, it feels like you're like, this is what it's supposed to be like.
Atlanta Westside it's community, like it's our community. For us, it's been a body of believers that really push us to know the Lord more and have mourned with us and laughed with us and supported us and prayed for us and just been really, really close friends.
It's been immeasurable, indescribable. I think that Westside has changed me into a person that's more confident of Jesus' love for me.
We live on the west side. That means that our kids go to school on the west side. We shop on the west side. Everything we do, we try to do as much as we can on the west side. I mean, I can't go to the grocery store in my pajamas anymore because I never know who I'm going to see there.
I think my future hope is that Atlanta Westside does leave a mark, that the neighborhoods are impacted by AWPC. Even though I feel called to go overseas and I want to see many people sent overseas, I still know that every tribe, tongue, and nation exists within the 30318, and I want to see my neighbors reached. I want to see them reaching out to each other and seeing people of different socioeconomic class, of different ethnic backgrounds being reached for the gospel. And it's not just that they know the good news, but they also experience the good news by their neighbors and those that are interacting around them.
I believe the legacy of the church comes through people and their own transformed lives. More than anything, we want to see an established community that is consistently proclaiming and living out the gospel in the middle of whatever other changes happen here.
Jesus is bigger and more all-encompassing, and his kingdom is so much farther reaching than a single church or a single person or a single neighborhood. And yet that's where he, by his grace, chooses to do some of his greatest work. I take a lot of comfort in knowing that if God did it here, he could do it anywhere.